Hello again, YouTubers. Today I'm going to go over my two drift cars. On your right, my left, we have a HPI RS4 Sport 3 Drift. And on your left, my right, is an Exceed RC DriftStar. It actually has the gear differentials instead of the ball differentials, the one-piece chassis. No carbon fiber hop-ups like the Drift King comes with, but I prefer geared differentials. They're easier to work with, a lot less maintenance. But we're going to start with the RS4 Sport 3 Drift. A couple of things I've done to it. When I first got it, it was brushed. So I bought a Mamba Max Pro ESC that came with a 7700 kV motor that was only capable of for a 2-cell Lipo. Well, my hobby dealer actually suggested to use 3-cell Lipo. Well, I was constantly overheating the motor. So I actually took the, I had a short course truck that I took the 3800 kV 3-cell capable motor out of, and I put it in here, and gives me a lot more torque, and really it has really cooled it down. After the first video I did, pretty much right after I did it, I took some Lucas Red and Tacky number 2 grease and completely packed the rear differential. I didn't completely lock it up, I just made it so when I was drifting it would get the two rear wheels to completely pretty much lock up. Well, after I did that, when I would drift counterclockwise or turning to the left, it would always spin out. So today I was just goofing around and I did the same thing to the front differential, and now it is probably the best drift car I have. This is more of my touring race car. This has a lot more speed. This one has a This one also has a Castle, but it has a Castle Sidewinder with I took the 7700 kV motor that came with the Mamba Max Pro and put it in this. This actually came with a brushless setup, but I prefer a Castle. This one actually comes with aluminum body threaded shocks, so that was something that really impressed me. It also came with a steel, either hardened aluminum or steel spur and pinion gear. So that's why this is more my race one. It's a hell of a lot faster. This one has the torque. So I'm running a 3-cell 500 milliamp 35C discharge Venom battery in this one. With the Mamba Max Pro and the 3800 kV, works perfectly, nothing ever overheats. And you may see that I do have adjustable turnbuckles on this. These are not stock. I said this in another video, I took some Traxxas turnbuckles and I cut them with my Dremel, and I was actually able to make some turnbuckles that fit, that I was actually able to make so I could adjust the camber, but I didn't touch the toe because I wanted it so if I ever crashed or anything, instead of breaking something, these are ball and socket, basically just straight plastic turnbuckles, and you can adjust the toe with just those two little screws right there. I've already shown this in another video, so I'm not going to completely take it off, but you can get to the entire just to change this, if you want to just change the spur gear, all you have to do is take off this entire section, which is 6 Allen head screws. I believe they're 2mm. And this pops off, and you have to take this little piece off that connects the two tie rods for the toe and basically the steering. You have to take that off so you can pull it out. And right now I believe it's running a 72 tooth. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember. But that's all I've done to this is change out the motor to a 3-cell capable motor so I wouldn't overheat it. And of course I have a better servo in it. I've never been a fan of stock servos because they're never fast enough, they're never torquey enough, they don't have enough torque. And with these I actually had to set my end points. They were turning so far that there's a possibility of stripping out the gears. Eventually I will go to some metal geared servos with faster motors in them, so I'll get a lot faster steering response. But for as it is right now, it's an absolutely perfect drift car. Really above and beyond my expectations. The only thing that, if I can figure out a way to do it, I would change the battery hold down from this Velcro, which I know eventually will fail, to some other type of battery hold down. And yeah, I know I definitely need to clean up these wires. I'm going to on this one, if you see, if you braid the wires, it will actually reduce interference with your transmitter receiver. So eventually I am going to do that on this. It's not hard to do if you know how to braid. So that's pretty much it for this car. One thing I will suggest is, if you do have the means, do not use the stock tires that come with it. Buy some Integy drift tires. They're completely plastic and they're smooth, just like the stock tires, and you won't wear down the tread. You can save the ones with the tread for softer surfaces, smoother surfaces like carpet, because once you run these plastic ones on asphalt or concrete or anything like that, it's basically going to act like sandpaper and really rough them up. So you're really not going to be able to drift. They're going to grip a hell of a lot more. So that's that one. It has a waterproof receiver box. Of course, for both of them I got the blower fan shroud to keep the motor cool. And the Mamba Max Pro, I also moved the power switch from down here, where it was always hard to get to right on top of the receiver box, so it will be a lot easier to get to. But that's it for that one. Just all I did was grease up the differentials, and the tire rod, made my own turnbuckles and changed out the motor to the 3800 kV Castle system. And with this one, I'm also running a 5000 milliamp, but this one is a 2-cell. This is a Racer's Edge, 25C discharge. This one actually does come with turnbuckles. Again, has the ball and socket joints. The battery hold down is a lot better than the HPI. Because it's actually a piece of plastic and the battery can't move back and forth side to side. I mean, it can move side to side a little, but not much. The only thing different between that one and this one is that one has a completely sealed drivetrain. The HPI has a completely sealed drivetrain. This one has a completely open center shaft, and to get to the spur gear is extremely hard because you have to completely take off this entire purple part Well, no, you don't have to take that off. You have to remove all of this back here and completely take off the entire rear section to change out the spur gear, which is quite a bit of work. I clocked this one at with the 7700 kV at 7.4 volts. I believe it was 66 miles an hour. I can't remember exactly. But it was so fast that it was hard to control, and I was actually using Traxxas X01 complete slick tires. And again, it's using the Castle Sidewinder. When I go brushless, I always go Castle because, I mean, it's relatively cheap. One thing I don't understand is with the Mamba Max Pro, it actually has a port for a sensor, but Castle does not offer any censored motors. But if you want to move to a censored motor, that does give you the capability, but I prefer sensorless. On this one, I also did the same thing with the rear differential, putting some Lucas Red and Tacky #2 grease, just completely packed it into the rear differential, and then close the case. Both of them have bell crank steering. This one, it's a little hard to control because if you turn to the right, once you center it up, it sort of stays to the right. So you sort of can always, you're having to continuously keep it straight. But this is mainly my touring car. That's why I didn't lock up the front differential. Well, I didn't put the red and tacky because I like to race this one. This is my faster of the two. That's my drift car. This is my touring car. In time, I will get some carbon fiber shock mounts. Basically what this is an Exceed RC DriftStar, so they do offer some things. It does have a place for a anti-roll bar, so in time I will be putting one of those on here since this is my touring car. This one also, the HPI also has a place for a anti-roll bar, so I'm going to be putting that on both of these. I just have to get one that'll fit this one and one that will fit this one. Again, I changed out the servo. Neither one of these are waterproof. They came waterproof. This one came brushed. This one was actually brushless with a 3300 kV motor. It's actually got a 7700 kV motor in it now, so it absolutely hauls ass. That's really all there is to these cars. I mean, of course, you have your ESC, your motor, your receiver, your steering servo, and then you have your front and rear assemblies, which gear differentials on both vehicles. And like I said, I always prefer gear differentials because that's what you have in real cars. A lot less maintenance. You don't have to replace parts when you rebuild them, like the bearings and the races. You don't have to replace those because they don't have them. The one thing I would like, if they could figure something out, is make it so when you let go of the steering wheel, the wheels will actually completely center up. That may be my own. I may need to toe in the wheels a little. But they're both very good drift cars. This one altogether, battery and all, the car was $289. The Mamba Max Pro with motor was $200, and the battery was $75.99. So you add that up, you're close to $600. This one, the car itself was $200, and I already had everything, all the electronics, so I didn't have to take any money out of pocket. I had the battery for it and everything. I was just running a Carnegie 2.2, a 2200 milliamp battery. Both of them using XT60 connectors. I've always loved those because they can take a constant 60 amp discharge. And on both of these I am using my Fly Sky, and even on another video I have a Nitro Rustler. It also has a Fly Sky receiver. That's what I'm using for all three of these cars, my Fly Sky receiver. The body for the Exceed RC is Lexan, of course. I mean, that's what you're always going to get. The bumper for this is actually a little softer than the Exceed RC. I mean, than the HPI. The Exceed RC bumper is. The Exceed RC has these little foam things to put over, instead of the HPI actually has these little where the body mounts are to hold the body at a certain height. It has little plastic pieces that are held in with body clips. And lastly, with the Exceed RC, the switch for the Sidewinder is actually pretty low is very low in the chassis, so nothing can hit it, and I can just hit it very simply like that to turn it on. But if you're looking for a very cheap but very good drift car, I would say go with the Exceed RC. I would say DriftStar because there's a lot less maintenance. You don't have ball diffs that you have to worry about learning. And they do come with brushless, so that's a really good thing, because brushless is a lot better than brushed. Brushed is mainly for off-road. That's mainly how I look at it. Brushless, you get a lot more RPM out of. But that's it for these two cars. Exceed RC DriftStar with geared diffs and a Castle Sidewinder system, and an HPI geared diffs, completely sealed drivetrain, and also with a Castle system, but this actually has the Mamba Max Pro. So, like usual, if you have any questions, hit me down at the bottom. This is pretty much a medium-term review for both of these. I've had this one for a little over a month. I've had this one since the 1st of September. So I'm still learning things about it, but ever since I locked up the front differential, it's been a completely different car. It drifts much smoother, a lot easier to control, much easier to tell what the vehicle is going to do. I mean, because before I locked up the front differential, every time I would go left, it would completely spin out. But that is it for these two cars. Like usual, if you have any questions, hit me down in the comment section. If you like what you see, I will always have more RC cars coming. I'll eventually do a review on my Phantom, things I've done to it. I'm waiting to get a gimbal and an FPV set up for it, but I'll show everything I've done to it to really get a lot of. When you first get the FC40, I still have the FC40, the very first Phantom. Maybe 5 to 10 minute flight time, but with the things I've done, I'm getting 15 to 20 minute flight time. So yeah, I also have an airplane. Those are a whole different subject. This is on-road. So until next time, peace.